Welcome to the Core Growth Show, the podcast where we aim to educate, share, and inspire you to grow, lead with purpose, and make a real impact. With your host, Gary Wallace.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Core Growth Show. I'm delighted to have our next guest in Kevin O'Reilly. Kevin and I were introduced by a mutual friend, but met recently at TEDx in Black Mountain. So Kevin from the Communication Clinic, and he's a communication expert who coaches business owners and leaders to communicate with impact to change their lives. And he's a lovely little saying too as well. On the other side of communication is a life you deserve. Kevin, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I am very well, Gary. Thank you very much for the invite onto the show. It's a great way to start my day. I love just having conversations with people.
Brilliant, brilliant. So tell us a bit about yourself. What got you into becoming a communication expert?
Well, long story short, Gary, is many years ago, and it feels like in a past life, I used to work in retail. And for about 22 years, I was between an area manager and a manager sort of level. And then COVID hit. And I had to go around and make 651 people redundant and then make myself redundant as the 652nd. And that was a big, massive identity shift and blow to me. But when I was going around and supporting the closure of these retail units, there was a common thread around what people were afraid of and what people were concerned about moving from one job to the next. And they kept saying, Kevin, it's the interview. I really hate the interview. I can't communicate. I just, I know I know what I do, but I can't communicate that out. And I sat down with a page, a massive big page, and I thought to myself, here's an opportunity. I'm hearing lots of things. I'm seeing lots of things. And what an opportunity I have now to start my own business. So I sat down with that big page and a pen, and I wrote 100 things I was really good at. Now, this sounds easy, but it is really difficult. I got to about 46, 47, and I started to put stuff down like, taking the lid off the jar for my wife in the kitchen. It was getting a bit ridiculous, so it was, Gary. But it was the actual intention of sitting down and thinking about it and reflecting on it made this a very worthwhile exercise. And then when I had the list of 100 things I was good at, I then came up with what is called a Socrates triple filter, which is three criteria that it needed to meet so that I would either keep it or score it off. And the three things that I thought of was it has to be good for me, it has to be good for my family, and it has to make money. Because every business you need to make money. And I thought, okay. So I started using that criteria and started to score off maybe half, just slightly less than half, every couple of days. And I started to score off, score off, score off, and got right down. And then I started to realize that it didn't feel right. That triple filter criteria didn't feel right. There was something missing. And because it was really difficult to score these things off that list. So what I did then do was I added a fourth, which is weird because Socrates never had a quadrant filter. He had a triple filter, but I added a fourth because I thought it was really important, and that was to help other people. As soon as I added that fourth criteria, completely changed the dynamic of how I was able to work down. And I came to two at the very end. So one was the communication coaching, and the other one was obviously male stripper for the over 60s, Gary. But then I realized, the looks in the body will eventually go. So, I thought, well, let's stick with the communication coaching.
Brilliant.
And that sort of helped me understand that there is a massive need. And then I started doing lots of research, and I started to do lots of reading around communication to the point where I started to look at government white papers. And what I did notice was that the top 30-40% of problems within every organization is communication.
Okay. In what way?
It's lots of assumptions. So people think communication is just talking.
Yes.
It's not. It's talking, listening, and watching. There are lots of elements to communication. It's not just the talking part, because you and I both know lots of people who are fantastic talkers, but rubbish listeners.
Sorry, what?
They're
How much?
okay, all right,
Sorry.
okay.
There you go. Well, no, go ahead. Sorry. Keep going. Because
So,
if
so
any of my friends who listen to this or my family are like, oh my God, Kevin, you fell for that. He does
I
that at
can't believe
least twice a day. But go
that
ahead.
is such a dad joke,
It
and I
is
use
such
it
a bad
myself
joke.
daily, and I can't believe I fell for that.
I cut you out of your flow. Said we'll try and bring it back. Let's go.
No, that's completely fine. That's completely fine. I'm used to working with this type of audience, Gary. It's fine. It's fine. But it's one of those things that when you think about communication, before our conversation and before I mentioned it to you, you would probably think, oh, well, yeah, communication is, when you have a good conversation with someone. Most of the time, or a majority of the time, when I have a good conversation with someone and someone actually walks away and goes, that was one of the best conversations I've ever had, I have said very little and listened a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a strong skill. Would you agree?
Oh,
Is that
wow.
something that a lot of us are?
It's an amazingly strong skill. And I'll tell you why, for an example, that men are not great listeners. I know that is not going to come any surprise to any men or to their partners or wives. That is not going to come as a surprise. Now, this is this is built into us, by the way. We are more visual. We are more visual than we are auditory or listeners. Women are more auditory than visual. So there is reasons for this. As the prehistoric man was the hunter, he needed to use his eyes first for safety and to ensure that we were able to eat and feed. So they obviously needed to be sharp. They needed to see this. Listening came second. So whenever, let's say, for example, I'm doing a presentation, the very first thing I will do during a presentation is I will have like almost a blank screen or a picture of something on the screen. Because if I had words up on that screen, people would be too busy looking at the words rather than listening to what I'm saying. So you move between the listening, the hearing, and the feeling, and that's where the communication, that's where good communication comes in. But if you think about a woman talks and she describes, and they're so descriptive, and they're almost creating this picture for you. But one of the reasons why women are much better with the auditory side of things is because when they're bringing up children, they need to be able to hear when they're crying, when they're in pain, and you know yourself, women can distinguish between 20 different cries, exactly what a child wants.
Yeah,
Guys just hear the one cry and go, "Oh my God." So
it'd be
so
grand.
listening is a skill. Listening is a skill, Gary. Absolutely.
And then, is it a skill then we can train?
Yeah. Yeah.
In what way? So if you're a meal and you're like, you know what, that's just a wee light bulb moment for me there, Kevin. Now I kind of get why my wife keeps going on and on telling me a story, and I wanted to get to the point really quickly because I have it in my head.
Yeah.
So what's a sort of skill then to improve that? If, for example, if you're a meal, not even just a meal, but if you generally find it hard
Okay.
to listen or to understand.
I think one of the easiest ways is to be intentional with your listening. Lots of conversations or lots of um, talks happen whenever someone is saying something and somebody else is waiting for their turn to reply. So they're not intentionally sitting and listening. And when you sit and listen and you just nod along or you acknowledge, but you don't add, or what tends to happen is when you go, oh yes, and I was doing this thing on Tuesday, and somebody else will jump in and go, yeah, 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 I did that 2 weeks ago. So they always bring it back to them. So when you're listening, you're not listening to bring it back to you. You're not listening to add anything to this. You're listening to allow that person to just say what they have in their head. You're not waiting to reply, but you're sitting listening. And there is a thing called a communication loop. There's a method called a communication loop or the feedback loop. And what that means is whenever you're listening and being intentional and not waiting to reply, you nod along so that the person who's talking can see you physically nodding
Yeah.
along with it. And then you summarize little parts of what they're saying back to them. Because when you do that, it shows that you have actually been listening. You have to listen to be able to summarize back. So
Yeah.
even with when we're doing now on this podcast, you will be nodding along and you will be listening to what I'm saying, and you will be going, "Oh, Kevin, so what you're saying to me is, or what I heard was," and what that allows also is if it's not what the person or talking is trying to communicate, that's okay because they'll correct you then. And then that's where the real communication happens. But because they go, no, 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 I meant this. And you go, ah, and then they will continue.
It's amazing. Yeah,
Isn't
because
it?
the thing that takes me back to that is when you talk about that communication loop is when I'm coaching P1s, they are the best people to correct your communication. Because they were like, because okay, could you, it might be a simple instruction that I've portrayed it, and they've actually done it, and they've made me such a better coach because I'll always turn and go, "You're right. That's actually what I said, but what I meant is this." And if you want to upskill and you want to do whatever, go coach a class of 30 P1s.
Yeah. Well, well, well,
Then you
well
work on
fun,
your communication skills.
funny you say that. It's when I coach others, I will always say, talk to them like they're 8 years of age. Talk to whoever is, you talk to your audience, talk to your friends like they're 8 years of age. Because what you do there is you remove lots of assumptions. And then when you take those assumptions out, you check for understanding. Once you check for understanding, you then confirm. You check for clarity and then confirm that it's all correct. And many years ago, when I was in retail, a guy who I used to watch on YouTube, he said one line, and I thought, "Oh my God, that's amazing! I'm going to use that." And I used that within my retailing for the rest of my retailing life. And it was a very simple instruction. So I used to bring all my staff together every morning and ask them to and give them their instructions for the day. But what I would always ask them is, when I give you an instruction, I want you to repeat this phrase back to me immediately. And the phrase was very simple. It was, "What does done look like, Kevin?" Okay. So if I said, let's give an example, Gary. So if I said to you, Gary, I want you to move those boxes from the left side of the room to the right side of the room. Okay, simple instruction. Boxes that are on the left, I want you to move them to the right. Okay, seems simple enough. But you move all of those boxes, Gary, and over to the right, and I go, "That's not what I asked you to do." And
Yeah.
you'll go, "No, that's what you asked me to do." And I go, "No, no, no. I want you to stack them in the same way that they were stacked over here. But I also wanted you to make sure that the labels were facing up the right way. And I also wanted you to make sure that there was a gap around the back so I could walk around the back. But you set them up exactly the way you thought was right, but I didn't clarify that, and I didn't check your understanding." We make lots of assumptions. And this is actually why I created the ACC of communication methodology. It's very simple. Assume nothing, clarify everything, check for understanding. When I designed that in mind of my own family. They have communication challenges themselves. We have 3 out of 4 who are neurodiverse, and they sharpen my communication sword every single day
Mhm.
because there are things that they do and say or don't do or don't say that it's almost like trying to put a puzzle together, and it makes it real challenge, but it helps me learn something new every single day.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can learn from your within your own house if you're open to that.
I was about to say as well, because that's a great sense of suppose, of awareness and of improvement on yourself. I find I don't know if you feel it with children who are with neurodiversity and have different needs. I don't like them being labeled. When I go
Yeah.
into schools, it's very much they're put in a box, and they should understand us rather than we have to maybe be more open to them. And I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is that you're using, not using that, you want to understand your children better, like any parent does,
Hmm.
but you're really, really delving into, okay. And that's a skill and that's a challenge because I know you mentioned before frustration. Would that be one
Yeah.
thing that would come into it as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. It used to, Gary. It used to all the time come in as frustration. Now it comes in as curiosity for me
Brilliant.
because frustration, it's a real negative feeling that doesn't help anybody. And you're right, they should not need to change to suit our world. We have to adapt because they live in a different world. And we all live in a different world, but they live in a different world, and getting to know their world and getting to know what it means, that's a real challenge. It's a real and it takes a lot of time and energy to really understand. And one of my biggest reasons for doing what I do was because of my family. I wanted to be able to communicate really well to them. I wanted to be able to understand them, and I wanted them to be able to communicate because what in 2014, my late wife passed away with cancer, and one of the hardest things that I ever had to do was tell my children.
Okay.
That was by far the hardest thing I ever had to do was tell my children. And I rattled my brain the whole night trying to work out what was I going to say to these two children that wasn't going to rip their heart out. And I came to the conclusion that there was nothing I could say that wouldn't do that. So I was very honest but gentle. And then I started to realize that these kids are going to have to be able to explain or communicate their feelings rather than acting them out. Because we tend to find that lots of communication is acted out through behavior as opposed to said out loud with words. And usually the acting out of behavior, it's never really good behavior.
Yeah.
It's never really good. And you probably find that with when you're in the schools as well. The kids who tend to show bad behavior, they're the ones that are struggling with communication. And the only way they know how to communicate is through this behavior. They can't find the words to communicate verbally.
Yeah. Uh, I didn't know actually about your wife as well, so condolences on that. And the fact now that you have this, that you've seen when you're communicating, because someone could be listening to this and they could be in this exact scenario. So how did you actually, was it just you sat down and were open and honest, and then was it the after you had communicated this with your children? What was that response like? I suppose was every single one of them different? How do you deal with that, or do you continue to deal with that? Does that play a part in it?
Of course, that plays a part in it. Now, to give you the dynamic, I now live in what we know as a blended family now, and I remarried again, and I had two other children. So the story behind this was that my wife currently, currently that sounds funny. My wife now, um, her husband also passed away with cancer and left her with two young children as well. And my wife passed away with cancer, left me with two young children, and it was 6 weeks apart that the two parents passed away. And they were both in the same place when they passed away. And it was really strange how it all sort of came together. We were at a support group and we got chatting, and a friendship blossomed, and then it blossomed outside, and then the rest, as they say, is history. But we had that almost common denominator of when we were having a hard day, we didn't have to say. We knew.
Yeah.
It was a shared life experience. And what I always think of myself as a parent is as a parent, my job is not to be my children's friend. It is to be a parent first and foremost, to prepare them for when I'm not here. And that sometimes means making hard decisions that they may not like, but it is preparing them for when I'm not here.
Yeah, that's it's often a question I would ask to people, who are parents. Have you ever set goals for yourself as a parent? And that's a lovely way, I think, of phrasing it,
Yeah.
because we are going to pass. We are going to move on. There is going to be gaps. We don't know when or how or what or who's going
No.
to go. Um, but having that, and even with myself, I would always say I had always two things that. Well, I had one child at that stage with Josh, who's now 16 coming, and
Mhm.
it was always when I was thinking about it, it was always I wanted him to do something that he would love, but he had to find it himself. I'd be there to
Yeah.
guide.
Yeah.
And probably most importantly, that I built up enough a relationship with him that whenever he needed anything, good, bad, and different, whatever way he's there, that he could come to me. And that's it. Because
Yeah.
he still needed to figure out a lot on his own. And even for
Yeah.
me knowing that, it's like I'm not overprotecting him. I'm not doing it like kind of let him run free for you. But the social skills and stuff that he's built up now, a lot stronger. But I always had that in the back of my mind. I was like, and the test came whenever quite academic, and he wanted to be a physio. And
Mhm.
we have a family of physios. And one of my cousins called me. He's like, Josh could go on and do something a bit different. Physio may not be for him. So I just sat with Josh, and he's like, well, I've told you I just want to go and do this. And I was like, you know what? You're 100% right. You do you.
Mm.
And that was it.
Mhm.
That was it. So it's, as you said, like I'm preparing him. He's made a decision now to go with that, but I love the way that you put that as well too. Just preparing our children that when we're not here, however that comes, and do you think then is that based on your beliefs as well? Are you more open to things, or are you like, look, I'm making this decision because I believe this is right for you,
No.
or what
No,
way would
no.
you take that
No,
approach?
I'm extremely open to whatever. And I think that's come through years of experience. The growing up in North Belfast in the 70s and 80s wasn't an easy place to be. So it gives you a different perspective on things. And then when I lost my wife and I had a friend attempt suicide and I had a friend whose big brother committed suicide, you living becomes a different way of thinking. You either decide to do it or you decide to not do it. And that's how I see life. You decide to do it or not. One of my beliefs has actually grown, and that's around this whole parenting style because I want my children like you want your son to have a conversation with you. And it doesn't matter how bad the conversation may get, is that they have a conversation before it gets to action. Let's talk, and it seems that men are they're the worst at talking. They're the worst at communicating. And and that's okay. I get that. But believe it or believe it not, we cannot not communicate. So men are actually communicating all the time. It's just other people are not able to pick up what they're saying or not saying. Behavior
Yes.
is a massive communicator. You watch what someone does day in, day out, that will tell you where they're going to end up in 6 months' time.
Yeah. It's interesting because what you're saying there as well too, like we are all communicating, and we go back to neurodiverse people that maybe their communications actually is a bit easier if we are open and aware to it, whereas others it's like a hidden.
Yeah,
So, for example, if I'm here and I'm not communicating and I don't have any erratic behaviors or triggers or anything, I could just coast along
yeah,
and pretend anything's fine and not communicate that, especially as a male, that can be challenging. And we've all went through our own issues, problems, or something's going to happen in life, And with myself, it was my own mental health journey, and I was always that guy who was life is solo the party. Didn't need a drink. It was here, brilliant. And yeah, I went through my own mental health journey where I just like, yeah, hit rock bottom when it came to a thought. The best way I used to describe it was the eyes would open in the morning and just bang, this dark cloud is over your head. And you're just looking in the mirror and you're like, you just feel like a fraud. That was probably my way. And it was summed up even I used to write for the local paper. A friend of mine asked me to do it for 6 weeks. I ended up doing it for 10 years. And but I was going through a period of my own mental health journey and I was typing and I was like, you are typing these words and you are a fraud. Like I was talking about
Wow,
mental health, well-being, looking after yourself. I was in the PT space at this time and I was like, I was just hitting send on a thing and going, that's if people only knew. So,
mm,
and communication was one big thing that helped me was reaching out to my parents, reaching out to the doctor, but then speaking to friends and being more open about it. Eventually, I came out the other side as well and did a podcast on it. And it was, for me, it was like, I get to share. And it was a bit of communication that I had with my sister's friend, who's now married to one of my friends as well. And she was going through her own journey previous, and she sat me down and we were just chatting. And she goes, "Gary, you don't realize of what you're doing and what you are and who you're becoming as well. You going through this is going to help so many people." I was like,
totally.
"What do you mean?" She says, "When you come out of this, you're going to share the story. You're going to help so many people." And that was like a little, just at that moment, I don't think it was a light bulb, but another way some
Yeah.
visions and some things just sit with you. And I can remember where we were sitting, and I was like, maybe that just gave me that wee lift that I needed of someone communicating to me in a different light to what way I was thinking.
Gary, sometimes we can't see what we have inside us. And someone told me a quote, and I absolutely love it. You can't read the bottle from inside the bottle. You can't read the label of the bottle from inside the bottle.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought, wow, okay. So it takes somebody else to maybe say to you, I see something in you that you don't see.
Yeah. I just an image now in my head of somebody just popping over the lip of a bottle and looking over and going, "Oh, there it is there. Actually, you're right. Well, thank you."
But I'm glad it was a descriptive enough to make the picture.
Yeah.
Um, but it really hit a chord with me because like you said, sometimes you can feel like a fraud. Sometimes you can think, who am I to do this? Who am I to give this advice to those individuals? And that happened to me when I was first starting out on this my own journey myself. Who am I to give advice to CEOs and people on the TV and news broadcasters, and who am I? I'm only little old Kevin O'Reilly. Who am I? And then when I started to realize the impact that what I was doing was having on people, that sort of evidence I was building up inside my own brain, because our brains work on evidence. The only problem with our brains is that it always seems to find the negative evidence easier. And the reason it finds the negative evidence easier is because it wants to protect us. So our brain is set to protection mode constantly. But it will do such a good job that we'll have us sitting in the house wrapped in bubble wrap, drinking our food through a straw, because it will protect us that well. And we have to be able to notice when it's doing that and notice when it's actually holding us back from getting to where we want to be. And that was my problem, challenge, and opportunity many, many years ago when I started to think, who am I?
Yeah.
But then there is this little saying that I have, if I ever doubt myself with what I'm doing, and it was more of an affirmation, and I said it hundreds of times every day, every morning when I first get up, and it was, this is who I am and this is what I do. And any time now that I feel a twinge of doubt, all I have to say is, this is who I am and this is what I do. And it just vanishes. It just clears. And it was one of those affirmations that was absolutely life changing. And you know yourself, sometimes you get a wee creep of doubt in. And I do recall hearing something about a golfer just was winning the round of golf he was playing, and he got a twinge of doubt. Now this is a professional golfer, twinge of doubt on the backswing, and he put it into into the river in front of him. And after that, he almost lost the whole championship. But it was his caddy that kept saying to him, we gotta believe, we gotta believe, we gotta believe, and it's just about the next shot, just about the next shot, just about the next shot. And I think communication is very much like that, and I think self-belief is very much like that.
Yeah.
We can have moments of doubt, and it's just having somebody else, like a coach, just to give you that little nudge every so often and go, come on, this is who you are, this is what you do. Let's swing the next shot. Let's go.
See, through all that, does that come back to purpose? Having a strong why, for you to get up to say your mantra every day,
Hmm.
does it go back to I think I found my purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Simon Sinek book, Find My Why. I
Yeah,
love that. I've read it a couple of times actually, and it makes perfect sense. When your why is bigger, when your why is big or bigger, your reason for doing it becomes less of a struggle, and it doesn't matter because there's going to be times that both you and I don't want to get out of bed. We can't be, wanting to jump out of bed every single day, even when we have purpose. It's still sometimes a bit of a struggle to get out of bed. But when you have a purpose, it will drag you out of bed. And it's funny because when people ask me now, Kevin, how's business going? I always say to them, it's going in the direction I'm dragging it in.
okay. Interesting use
Because
of language there. So going the direction you're dragging it in.
absolutely. Because sometimes it's difficult. And
Okay.
I want to acknowledge that. These people that go, yeah, yeah, everything's simple, everything's easy. Yeah, no bother at all. It's false. We all have our challenges. Even the most amazing people in the world that you see all the time who look like they have the most amazing life, they will have different challenges than what we will have, but they'll also have the same challenges. You don't see it. That's the difference. You don't get to
Yeah.
see it. I'm I'm okay with showing both my good and my not so good sides. I am very intentional with the language I use because I do believe that the language we use, especially to ourselves, is very important because it's how we then talk about ourselves in our head using our
Yeah.
little voice. And there's no reason for you to beat yourself up because there will always be someone out there that will do it for you. So I am not jumping on that bandwagon. Absolutely not. Now that
Uh,
that is not arrogance. That is me betting on me every single time.
yeah, and and I think when people do have that negative towards you, and I don't know where I ever heard it, but there's like a lovely wee saying, there's only for every hater you have 10 followers, so go get more haters. You know,
I never heard that before. I like
yeah,
it. I'll take it.
they
I'll absolutely take it. Yeah.
so yeah, so that's what I mean. And it's a different perspective and ways of looking at it. And also when somebody comes, like I have a lot of coaches here and coming up, and I love the theme that came out from the TED Talk in Black Mountain. The word perfection came up a lot. The
Yeah.
word, looking for perfection. And I had young coaches come in with me, one in particular, who really was nearly everything had to be perfect. So much so as I would get a phone call like, Gary, that teacher she didn't seem happy today. Looked at me and, am I doing a good job? And she had phenomenal coach, phenomenal. And
Mm.
I just had to say, that's not a reflection of you, but a reflection of her. You have to
Mm.
sometimes realize that you're actually a walking mirror.
Yeah.
And when people are actually coming towards you, it's something that they seen within themselves.
Absolutely.
Now we've taken that a step further, and we're reading a book, Zero Limits, the Honopono method. I don't know if you come
Mhm.
across it,
No, I haven't. No.
but it's all about cleansing. That if that issue comes towards you, it's actually also a problem within yourself that you need to clean.
Hmm.
So it's very powerful, very strong, very, and we delved into it a lot, and yeah, a lot of good conversations came from that and scenarios, and the words they say was, uh, "Thank you, I'm sorry." I love you. And you
Mm.
keep saying all that over and over again.
Yeah.
I forgive you. I thank you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I love you. There's just a real backstory on it. The author was in, it was a Hawaiian guy, and just the myth went that he had cured this whole uh, asylum, or not asylum, like this psychiatric ward, where
Hmm.
he had got the files and he cleaned. He says these files were given to me because I needed to clean some of them myself, so that
Yeah,
these people could be cleaned as well.
absolutely.
And they ended up then came out, and there was like, the story was that there was so much even from the employees going absence off sick, they were staying longer, they were going, and they actually had to close the unit or the ward down because they didn't have any patients left. It was an amazing story, but yeah, it was like, it was crazy. But and that's the thing as well, when it does come to that as a reflection. And one word I love that you use it in, and it's, I nearly have to catch myself keep using it sometimes, is that word challenge. It's not right or wrong, or this is really difficult, or I can't do this. It's like, this is a challenge.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
simple shift in language, and that, it's interesting to use the word dragon, but also with a level of awareness to say, look, I'm just relaying to what it is. I
Mm,
know that there's going to be challenges ahead. I just want to make you aware that I'm going a direction, and there's going to be stuff dragging behind me, but
hmm.
it's not holding me back.
No, absolutely not. And that's the one thing about me, Gary, is that there is a direction I'm going in. There is no set goal because there is no set goal. To be completely honest, I have a vision board here at home, which I set like mental visions on it, and I've achieved those visions already. And it's a matter of now, what have I become by chasing that? And I'm happy with the person I've become by chasing that.
Hmm.
This to me is almost like the like a movie montage. You know when Rocky is going to fight one of the main characters at the end, but most of the movie is the montage on the way up the training and that. This is my montage. Where the fight will end up, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But I am enjoying the journey.
Uh, have you got a level then of contentment with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that only comes with reflection. It
Okay.
only comes with reflection because you could be going to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And sometimes you get so caught up in the next thing that you forget to really just sit with what you've achieved. And every so often you should sit with no phone, no TV, just sit with your own thoughts, consider the week past. You don't need to write them down. And people do enjoy the journaling and writing, but I like to sit in a forest or on my kayak in the middle of the water and just reflect on where I've got to right now. And it's only a matter of just looking around me and just thinking, okay, so this happened and that happened and the other thing happened. And it's not always, stuff that went to plan. It's stuff that hasn't gone to plan as much as what has gone to plan. And I'm going, okay, all right, what did we learn from that? Where do we go from here? What do we do with this? And it's just those moments where you get to appreciate all your hard work. You get to appreciate the people who have supported you and who are your biggest cheerleaders. And you really get to appreciate life for what it is. It's a journey. The destination is in a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
It's where we all end up. So you might as well enjoy the journey while you're getting to there.
Yeah. Because a lot of people hear that like as fluffy and buzzwords now, and it's just your perspective, I suppose, of, you can use the word journey because it's universal now. People are like, oh, I'm on this journey,
Yeah,
and that's fantastic. But what do you believe? What is your sense of, what I'm feeling from that, what you're saying is, it's a place of content and peace,
yeah,
and being in the present, like
yeah,
literally. And the other thing you've added onto that as well too is nature, is finding yourself in a forest or on water in your kayak. you
yeah.
know there's a pattern happening there.
Oh, listen, I know my happy places. It's one of my happy places is at the top of a mountain in the mountains of Mourne. That's my happy place. Or it's in the middle of Belfast Lough or some other body of water. That's my happy place because those green and blue spaces and the wide open spaces, it puts you into perspective. It makes you seem so small and your problems seem so minimal when you see the bigger picture of it all.
Yeah.
Rather than you going, oh, this is the worst day of my life and this is the worst moment of my day. I've been there, done that, Gary. It doesn't really make you a better person, and you then can't be a better person in this world for other people.
Brilliant, because you think about different seasons, and when you're speaking there, it took me to a place where the same with the water, and how he's younger a lot, did a lot of surfing, and he loved getting out to the water, he loved getting out, and it was brilliant because once you went past that set of waves, and if you think of analogy, like hey, they're coming crashing, crashing, and you're past that set before the next set comes in, peace.
Calmness and stillness.
Just I'm sitting on a board,
Yep,
it's just me.
yep.
I would freak out the odd time if I seen maybe someone, then the mind would wander, but most of the time I'd be like, what, there's a shark. But
Something touched my foot.
just there, and like there'd be times like we have a mobile in Russell Island, Donegal, and there'd be times where I might have been the only one out in the water. And that thing what you mentioned as well about, realizing we're all connected, we're all part, but we're a tiny part of this huge thing. And even me sitting in the ocean and can see for miles out, and I turn around and see the land and everything is going on it, you're like, just, but this is me in the middle of it. It's just, when you sit back and reflect to those moments, it is. And if people are listening and maybe that they are struggling a little bit, just think back to find those moments yourself because
Yeah,
I don't have a happy place. I don't, just normally go back to childhood. Where
yeah,
was contentment? Where was peace for you? It may have been in joy, it may have been in stillness, it may have been anywhere, but find that and look for the patterns, you know?
absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely. Success leaves evidence.
yeah,
Always. Always, always, always. And when you look backwards, it's that's when you start to join the dots. When you start to see the patterns, when you start to see the patterns emerge, then you can start creating those patterns going forward. But it's funny when you're talking about that sort of contentment and that stillness when you're on the water. There's talk about, time travel and humans trying to find time travel. Well, in actual fact, we are time travelers. We do it every single day because we either live in the future, we live in the past, or we live in the now. And that's where our mind tends to go. It always goes to the forward if it's going, or the future when it's going, oh, there are things I need to do or I need to get, or what happens if this goes wrong? Well, those are the anxieties that's created by thinking of the future. In the past, that's where the depression lives. Oh, I shouldn't have done, or I wish I didn't, or it always just lives in the past. But when you come to the present, in the now, when you're sitting on your surfboard and the cold water is touching your feet and you can feel the water on your palms and your hands and the wind and the sun and the noise is just minimal. That is the present moment. Most people don't live in the present moment. And that's where reflection, that's where reflection sometimes takes you into this present moment. And it is so important to be there. And it's what I help people with when they're about to stand on stage or when they're going to go for an interview or when they're about to give a keynote or when they're going to do a presentation or they're going to do a TEDx, whatever that is, it's forget about what might happen, forget about what has happened, stay here with me. Be present in this moment. Fear does not live here. Fear lives in the future. Anxiety lives in the future. Regret lives in the past. Stay here with me, and I will guarantee you, you will be successful if you can stay in the present moment. So it's just bringing yourself back to that moment in time right now. And there are things you can do, like jump in the water, because
yeah.
by God, it will make you present.
Yeah, little. And see, and you summed it up beautifully there to say like, depression is the past, anxiety, and that's That's a perspective, but does being in the present give you a perspective where you can look more positively in the future and reflect deeper in your past
Well,
by,
it gives you perspective.
yeah.
It gives you perspective. But again, this is a mindset, isn't it? This is what you've either decided to have or you've curated yourself. And I've always been quite a positive guy who always looked forward and rarely looked back. But it was times where looking back was painful. So I thought to myself, well, how do I create this less painful? And you know, losing my wife when I was 34 years of age and becoming a widower and a single parent all in the same day was a huge what's the word I'm looking for? It was a huge event in my life that changed my life going forward. It changed everybody that it touched their lives going forward. But I didn't want to be a victim. I didn't want to be seen as a victim, and I didn't want my children to be seen as victims. This is something that has happened to us. This is not who we are. So we done a lot of work. We done a lot of soul searching. We done a lot of conversing. I mean, I went to a psychologist for many years before, during, and after, so that I could make sense of what was going on and why these things happen. And why these things happen is no one can really tell you.
Mm.
They just happen. But your perspective and how you react is the most important thing. There's a great book I read um, from a Holocaust survivor called Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Beautiful book.
Oh my word, beautiful book. And it was just a few lines in it that really put put my life into perspective. And it was that it's not what happens to you that matters. It's what you see or how you let it affect you that matters. And that changed my whole thought process from that day I read that sentence going forward. So I could either be a victim and allow this to make me a victim, or I could use this to help other people, or I could use this to support my children, or I could use this to be a better person.
Mm.
And I'm
Is it
and
just you're speaking and I'm kind of sitting there and going, the reason you are a communication expert isn't actually just based on the textbooks and what you've studied and what you've done, is what you've lived.
yeah,
And not only just because people live scenarios and challenges, but it's your understanding and the way maybe you have dealt with them or haven't dealt with them that's now made
yeah.
you go, okay, I need to improve with that. Would that be fair enough to say?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is it. And I live by another little saying of you should not take advice from anybody who has not been there and got the scars to prove it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have felt right giving advice around communication or around to business owners or leaders. I wouldn't have felt right if had I not been through that journey because no one can ever say you don't know, you don't
Mm.
understand. That comes, you know, there's absolutely no way anybody could ever turn around and say that to me.
And I don't
And
think that's a big thing. I think whenever somebody loses somebody as well, like, yes, I've lost people in my life, but in terms of somebody really close, I haven't. And, I had a friend of mine who lost both his parents within a matter of months of each other, and I remember just saying, it's like, I don't actually know how you feel. I can't even come to understand it, but I'm here for you, and that's it,
wonderful.
and I never go up to them and say, God, you must feel terrible. You must feel. I have no, and even if I did lose a parent, I don't know how he would react compared to how I react. We went
Yeah.
like you said now with your wife, you had that mutual understanding, and you said as well too that you didn't even have to communicate because it was like that little nod. I know it's a serious scenario, but I'm just thinking of the in Batman. Whenever he
Oh yeah.
nods, it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that little universal. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
understand you.
that's it. And it's back to this, you know, we cannot not communicate. Both her and I were communicating something. We were communicating we needed something. And that little nod, that's it. We could translate what that meant.
Yeah,
And
because you've both lived that experience.
yeah, and
You
I think
haven't lived
this
the
is
same experience, you've lived a experience for you, but you that
Right.
mutual understanding to say, yeah, I
Yeah.
I I feel you. I don't understand it,
Yeah.
what you're going through, but I understand you're going through something. So
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. Like
And,
too, like
and
it's very strong.
just being there for someone, like you said, that's
Yeah,
huge. Just being what is it you need me to be today?
yeah,
Do you need me to be the rock? Do you need me to be a cushion? Do you need me to be a table? What do you need me to be today?
yeah,
This always goes back to what you had mentioned earlier in our conversation with regards to uh, neurodiversity, and we should be changing to support those individuals. We should. We should at least be aware that
yeah.
they transmit differently, they communicate differently, they act and behave differently. We should at least be aware because without awareness, nothing will change.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to as well. I've loved this conversation so far. It's kind of went everywhere. It's brilliant. And the focus has been around communication, which is brilliant. But where are we currently at when it comes to communication with everybody, but more so our younger generation? What have you experienced or seen or felt?
Okay. Well, I do quite a bit of work within the schools as well.
And
And
what age groups? Sorry, with like secondary schools.
secondary school, 15 through to 18 or so.
Okay.
And what I have found is that if you are a good communicator, you will be very successful in business or within your studies. If you're not a great communicator, you're not going to be very successful. This is what I have seen physically in the room. I will usually take about between 70 and 150 children at one time for a full day sort of workshop where we would do interview preparation, communication skills, and then bring in some interviewers in the afternoon and help them with
Oh,
their
brilliant.
interview preparation. So we do sort of theory in the morning and then practical activity in the afternoon. I believe that's a great combination to cement learning and make it sticky. And that seems to work really well. It's absolutely flying in the majority of the schools that can afford to bring in someone like myself to do that. But what I also have noticed is that, and I'm not going to blame phones, by the way. I'm not blaming phones on this because it is not the phone's fault. It is what they're made to do, and they do it very well. But the attention level of our children and even the way we communicate has gone to almost zero. You like my son would ring me from his bedroom upstairs,
Hmm.
and I'm like, I am not answering that phone. Absolutely no way am I answering that phone because, and I will just wait and wait and wait, and he will walk then down the stairs to have the conversation. And I'm like, okay, let's have the conversation. Like you and I, let's talk. Let's look at each other and talk. Kids cannot do that now. It is a real struggle for them to the point where I remember visiting a university who had a short course on how to make and answer a phone call. Quick to text, quick to leave a quick voice note, but could not physically have a conversation back and forward with people. They have lost the ability to do that, or they're losing the ability to do that. Now, I am seeing a bit of a shift though from people on their phones to trying to get a little bit more offline.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, they're getting just a phone that makes calls. It's not internet browsing. They're getting a camera that's a wind-up camera. It's not a digital camera. They're all going very analog. And I think there's a real nice shift, sort of almost backwards, so that those people can switch off and only be reached by certain ways and certain things. And I really
Yeah.
like that. I really like that because I am from that old school generation of we didn't have a phone, then we did have a phone, and now we definitely have a phone, and it can do everything you need it to do. And when I remember back even to the first phone that I had, and it just about made a phone call.
Yeah. I know.
It
The
just
textbook
about.
BT Cellnet one.
And but the funniest thing about all of this is that we have lived that through that,
Yeah.
you and I, and our children now who are growing up now will never have known a time without a phone.
I think that's a key point of all of this is, children these days, children that, but they've known no other.
Yeah,
This is the way, like for us, we called for our friends. We went
Yeah.
and knocked their door. We
Yeah.
walked out. Now there's convenience. They don't even call. They play online. I remember coming round with a controller to my mate's house to play computer games. You know what I mean? Or we went to his house because he had two controllers, and then you could play
Yeah.
multiplayer with
Yeah.
James Bond, and you were like, but we were conversing. We were in the room, and then it was like, if a parent came in, right out of the house now, boys, this room stinks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
away you go. But I think it's share with you maybe on I think yourself was speaking to as well. Had another guy on a podcast, a youth coach, and he says there's a thing now called barista phobia,
Right.
where children, young children, are going into coffee shops. They're ordering on the app in the coffee shop and collecting then, rather than going to the barista to go
Wow.
and make the order. And then it was funny too because now if you go to any of these fast food places and like I go to McDonald's once in a blue moon maybe with my son and I still like a McFlurry, like a wee McFlurry, not gonna lie. But it was Roy Keane and Ian Wright I was listening to and they were like they were going home and they were talking about this milkshake that they got and he says it was like
I
two
seen
old
this.
men.
I
Did you
seen
see it?
this.
They were
Yep.
trying, they ordered it and then Keno he was like your man was there. Like went to take our order and he pointed towards the machine. I was like, nope, can you not? It's your job. um,
The Roy
and like
Keane
right,
famous line. It's his job.
it was brilliant because it was that generation too. And even Righty, the happy-go-lucky guy, he's like, oh my God, and we were pressing buttons and then the beautiful moment was like, but it was really nice because we had the ice cream and the milkshake and we sat out and
Yeah.
that connection they had. But it was amazing how the story came around. I was just made me think. I was like, yeah, like everything is so convenient, and we're moving for like we talked about nature, we talked about reconnecting, and I shared with you we ran the first ever active play session and in Castleberg on the weekend, and we had 400 people show up throughout the day. And the only time that I coached actually was when I grabbed the tug of war just to hold it to say three, two, one, go. I didn't coach. That's my background. I've done it for years. I didn't have to say, stand here, do this, or try this,
Yeah.
or even when I coach now, I always ask questions like, could we do it a different way? Get children to explore. I just stepped back. And people were collaborating with me on it. They're like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? And I was like, do nothing.
Yeah.
Go and talk, go and have a conversation. And I met a parent there who's like who ended up one of her daughter used to coach with us is now way doing PGC, so caught up. And then she shared she started a mummy's walking group in the morning to help with you know children or maybe just a community within that because that comes
Yeah.
with its own struggles, new parents and new mums. And we were collaborating then to say we could maybe introduce this where we could get give the parents a bit of purpose.
Yeah.
But just by setting that up, and there was so much that came, like my friends came down and we come up to our house after and we had a lovely brunch and we were playing and the guys, it was all created through this opportunity, these moments to
Mm.
connect. That's, we're so disconnected, I believe, anyway. We've never
Yeah.
been so connected, but so disconnected in human form. And even having this conversation, you know, long form conversation where that's what they grew up on in Keeley's and going around to having and sitting in people's houses and calling it like, there wouldn't be a time where the door would just knock or the neighbors would come in and, borrowing the ladder. And that's
Yeah.
slowly moving away. But you said there's signs things are coming back. So with all of that, you've mentioned about being in the schools as well. Do you find even with your sessions, is it on not as simple as that, but do they identify and go, oh, hold on a minute, I can do this now? Because you said people who don't communicate well won't be successful in business, but is it a
Mhm.
skill that can be easily taught? How long will you need to do that? Is it something constant you keep building on?
Like any skill, it's something you constantly have to build. The best way I always refer to it is uh, communication is like going to the gym. You go to the gym, you build fitness, you build health, you build muscle. As soon as you stop going to the gym, you start losing all of what you've built. It's exactly the same as the communication. It's exactly the same as any skill. As soon as you stop using it, you start losing it. It starts to degrade, and it starts to go backwards. And that's why, me personally, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm so curious about different aspects of communication. When I first started researching communication and behavior, because I trained as a behavior analyst as well, and when I started researching both those, I went down this rabbit hole, and I'm still there because it never ever ends. There's always something new that's come up. There's always something old that you didn't know. There's another paper from a psychologist you've never heard of, and it's just I love that. I love that there
Mm.
is no end to this opportunity. I love that there's no end to me growing. That's, I think, is what does it for me.
Yeah, you're sharpening the sword constantly.
Constantly,
Yeah,
constantly. However, the sharpest swords are the easiest ones to blunt.
yeah.
So if you
So you got to
don't
keep.
continue with it,
Yeah,
if you don't continue with it, you know, one ding unsharpens that sword.
yeah. No, I did, and that's what it is. It is. You go back to that word journey. It's a constant journey that you're living in the moment to, for that relating back to purpose or whatever it may be, to have a life of contentment and peace because you're on point.
Yeah,
You're like literally, I'm on point here. And
yeah.
so, so see if there is anybody listening to this and they're like, you know what, Kevin, I believe communication is something I struggle with. Be that communicating within a relationship, in a school, or getting up on stage. Are they all the same in a way? Can they all be trained
They,
similar? You know, is there some points you say, well, look, even it doesn't matter scenario. If you work on these few points, uh, is there something maybe you could share to help with that, or
absolutely.
is it each different scenario would be a different outcome?
Not really, and not really. If you think about every single opportunity you have to communicate or speak or listening or listen, uh, the problem that we have as human beings is we always fall back to this default of self-preservation and self-protection. So even having a conversation, there is a possibility there that you might get something wrong. You might say something that offends someone. You might get embarrassed by somebody else asking you a question you don't know the answer to. So there's lots of opportunities for a negative experience to happen. So as I mentioned earlier, the brain goes into self-protection mode and it goes, well, sure, why do I need to bother doing this thing? Because there's an opportunity that might be negative. It doesn't see there's an opportunity that we might actually learn something from this. So to me, what I always do with all of my clients at the very beginning is I train their brain first. I train their brain to think differently. I train their brain to become aware of these potential problems that may creep up. Everybody and anybody can talk and listen. They can. I have not met one person who cannot do that. I just haven't. But what I have found is those people who doubt themselves, and that's what holds them back. It's that self-limiting belief. And when we dig really deep into these self-limiting beliefs, we start to realize that actually a lot of them have come from childhood. A lot of them are coming from fears of failure in the future. And this book that I have here just behind me by John C. Maxwell, Failing Forward. If you haven't read that book, read that book. It is just amazing. It's about reframing failure. It's about actually failing your way to success, which just excites me to death, and because if you're not actually failing at anything, it means you're staying in your comfort zone. It means you're
Mm.
staying in your safety area. So if you're not failing, you're not actually growing. You should be failing. It is part of growth. It's actually the biggest part of growth. It's not learning lots of stuff so that you can be successful every single time. It's learning what to do when you're not successful and how to get to that next and the next and the next.
Yeah.
And you referred to Batman, and there was a scene in Batman what I love when they said when Bruce Wayne had fallen down the well when his father rescued him, and he was carrying him back into the house, and he says, "Bruce, why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves up." And I thought, wow, absolutely, I mean, that just hits home. That's a sound bite that will stay forever. To learn to pick yourself up. That's
Brilliant.
what feeling does. It allows you to learn how to feel forward.
Love that. Yeah. And if you even go a step as well too, when things do go really well, I would always say to the team in a positive way, brilliant what we did, what we're doing is amazing, but there's a better way. And we
Hmm.
get to find that. So that then helps us take us to the next level. Even if something has totally failed, like you said, there's an opportunity to learn. And I'll always say to the team as well, we don't have to take blame, but we always take responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
taking that. Now you mentioned there too about uh retraining, rewiring the brain.
Hmm.
What are some techniques that you do? So all traumas are totally all different, but is there something you could say, look, you're holding on to this fear. What would you do to somebody who said, I'm struggling to communicate because of X, Y, and Z? First of all, they've maybe found this out now. Oh, wow,
Yeah.
it's actually based on the childhood trauma. What would you do then?
There's a methodology I use called timeline therapy, and I'm an NLP practitioner, which is neuro linguistic programming practitioner. If I was to describe what neuro linguistic programming is, neuro mean mind, linguistic meaning communication, programming is programming. So it's mind, communication, programming. And when you understand how the brain actually works, and when you understand how behavior works, you understand that what you think creates your behavior, but also your memories. The reason that you remember them is for one of two reasons. You either have a really positive emotional connection or feeling around that memory, or you have a really negative emotional connection around that particular situation. And what I do with that is I help people go into a slight hypnotic trance so that we can go back into that situation in time, put themselves back into that place. Now, sometimes you can put people back into that place where they are looking through their own eyes at the situation, or they're in the situation looking at the situation. There's different ways of doing it. Some people need one, some people need both, some people need one or the other, but just to really cement it, you can do both. And what we then try to do is we try to remove or lessen the emotional connection that you have with that situation. So once you lessen or reduce the emotional connection with the situation, it actually starts to feel like there's this massive weight has just been lifted off your shoulders and you can almost breathe. And I see this in a lot of my clients where they go like this. They literally sort of sit up in the seat and they go, wow. And they sort of just, it's almost like a lifetime of pressure has just been let loose.
Brilliant.
It's just been easily let loose. And you can see them actually becoming lighter and you can see them smile and you're waiting on these reactions to make sure that it's worked. But that to me personally has worked so many times for different people. And it's what is known as I don't need to know. So I don't need to know the situation at all. You don't need to tell me about it. I just need to walk you through it. I just need to walk with you through it. But you don't need to tell me about the situation. It's just in your own head and you do what you need to do with it. And it's amazing when you watch someone go through that journey. I have had some people who have absolutely freaked out because they're back in that situation again. I mean freaked out, screaming, shaking, crying, the whole lot. And then just bringing them through the process and then getting to the other side of the process and then seeing that breakthrough moment. It's it's fantastic. It's fantastic to watch. There are other different things that we can do to support this. The likes of mantras, the likes of reflection, the likes of surrounding yourself with good people. That
Mm,
was another huge one for me, is that you grow up with these friends and you're sort of together in that area and you hung around with them. Doesn't mean they're the right people to have around for you to get you to where you want to go. They're friends, that's great. But if you're looking something different, if you're looking something, further on, those people could actually hold you back. And that saying you are the sum of the five closest people is very, very true. If you've got driven people who are constantly moving forward and they're constantly challenging you and as much as you're challenging them, then you're going to move as fast as they are. If you
yeah.
want to, if you want to go if you want to go, what is the saying? It's an African proverb. If you want to go slow, go by yourself. If you want to go fast, go with others.
Yeah.
And I think that's just amazing to think that even when I look back on my own journey of business and life, I didn't do it by myself. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are so many people that have been my supporters, who have been my little voice in my ear, who have been my direction, who have been my counselor, who have been my coach, who have been my mentor, who have been someone that hit me kick in the ass when I needed it. There have been so many individuals in my life. If I was to sit down and write down the names of the individuals, I'd be doing it for days.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I know, and you're right. For me, if someone says, "Oh, I'm starting a business," like get a mentor, get
Yeah,
somebody above you who cares,
yeah,
who genuinely, and it's a route that I go on as well too in terms of business mentorship, because it's more so I've been there. But like what you said, like I can actually say like now next year I'm 10 years in the business. But
hmm
even previous to that, I was PTing and set up my own other business. But as core kids, as what we do as a nationwide company is 10 years. And through that, it's been whoop, 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 and still will, but the gradient it keeps rising, but the highs and the lows are all there. But so you're taking us now through kind of a bit of a journey of somebody who potentially coming here. You've now, rather than just sticking putting a sticky plaster over an open wound, you've opened the wound.
yeah,
You're now letting everything go and you're stitching that up. So
yeah.
now you essentially you've a healing process. Would that be right in saying?
Yeah,
You're
absolutely. And
then.
we have to come to terms with these things as well. That those negative experiences hold us back the most. And when we look at those negative experiences and we remove that emotional connection with them, and we help people get to where they want to go on their journey, because everybody, like we've said constantly through this chat, is everybody's on their journey. Some people go left, some people go right, some people go down the middle, or some people
Yeah.
just don't move at all. And and do you know what? I've come to the conclusion, and me as a person, as a human being, that's okay. Everybody's doing their thing. Do your thing. I'm okay with you doing your thing at your pace. That's okay. As long as it doesn't affect me in a negative way, do your thing.
Yeah, your thing. Because that's
Do
really
your
what
thing.
you say now. So essentially, when people have come to this stage, would you find now that you're potentially even looking at a better version of them straight away, even after that practice?
Oh
And
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
and then if they do want to continue on to say, well, look, now here's some skills in terms of, let's talk about public speaking. What are
yeah,
some of the key things you would say to somebody now who maybe gone through this journey of they've had this anxiety or depression looking in their past, you've released the trauma, let's call it, or understood
yeah,
it, got them more aware of
yeah,
it and a positive thing. Now they're in a better place. They want to go and they public speak or they're going in
yeah,
an interview. What are a
yeah.
few of the things you would say or do
Okay.
with them then?
So that getting yourself into that right mindset, that to me is the foundations of the building, because you cannot build anything on top of it. You're right. That is not a sticky plaster. That is ripping open that wound again and dealing with it, and exposing it and removing it completely. But it's putting those foundations in place so that we can start to build the walls, and then build the roof, then add all the little bits and pieces to it, and put the finesse to it. But for public speaking, the one of the biggest things that I can always say to people, which does help settle them a little bit, is around the old analogy of, whenever you're giving a gift to someone as a present, you never feel embarrassed, or you never feel sort of like, oh, you feel weird, or oh, I shouldn't do this. You feel quite happy to give someone a present. It's their birthday, you give them a present. Christmas, oh, it's great, you give them a present. And that's really good. Your information that you're about to talk about during public speaking, that is your gift to your audience. Nobody else can deliver that to anybody else there. Nobody else. They don't have your perspective. They don't have your viewpoint. They don't have your skill set. They don't have your experience or knowledge. Nobody can give what you're about to give. It is a present, and you should give it as a present. And when you again shift how you think, and change that thought process, you become somebody different. You become a giver rather than someone who is a performing or a performer. Some people think they have to get up, they have to perform, and they have to have great slides, and they have to do hand gestures, and they have to do jazz hands. No, no, no. You have to get up and give a gift. You have to give something to your audience. That even changes how you show up on the day because you don't feel as embarrassed. You don't feel like, oh, what if I make a mistake? You're like, I'm giving a gift. I'm giving a gift. So that's the mindset that I would always suggest people go in with. And once they go in with that mindset, what they write it, how they perform it, it completely changes.
Yeah.
There's lots of little other techniques. There are other little techniques you can use for public speaking, but that to me is one of the easiest ones and the most effective ones, actually, is that, and also that everybody in that room is there to support you in what you're doing. They're not there to criticize or chastise. When I first started out in my public speaking career and training others, I always had the fear of I'm supposed to be the expert in the room. What if someone asks me a question I don't know? That used to scare the life out of me to the point where sometimes I wouldn't actually turn up to do the event. But what I did was a very simple little trick. I carried a book with me, and on the front of the book, it was ideas and questions I don't know. And I used to physically write down any question I was given by any person in the audience. I used to write it down and say, I don't have the answer to that, but I will get back to you with the answer to that. And I used to write the answer down and then I used to get back to them. And 9 times out of 10, that person I got back to ended up turning into a client because they said to me, Kevin, I didn't expect you to get back to me. You're a man of your word.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
and I just thought to myself, well, is it is the world got that bad that people will come to know, like, and trust you just because you did what you said you were going to do? The answer is yes, unfortunately.
But even in that too, there's an honesty and your vulnerability. So you're the expert in the room. You've made yourself vulnerable and you were like, here, I don't have all the answers, and that's okay.
Yeah,
But I'm an honest person. I know that, and I will get back to you.
yeah.
So, no like and trust definitely comes into that. And I think the key for your message that you're saying is it, even if you get one word I would maybe even say for the mindset shift is the essential.
Hmm.
It's if you don't have that strong foundation, whatever you put on top of it, sooner or later cracks will appear.
Yep.
So having that strong foundation then comes into if you're telling a story, start here, come to the middle, go to the end. If you're doing this, get your slideshow presentation. Everybody
Yep.
used to talk about the 1%, like the British cycling team as well in the Olympics.
Yep.
This was the coined term, the 1%. Every team that I was working with or club was like, with the 1%, 1%. Is like, yeah, but hold on a minute. What's the 99%? Because
Hmm.
don't get the 99% right, the 1% doesn't matter. You could bring your own pillow to any hotel you want. You could black out all this. You could do all of that. But have you looked at your sleep pattern, your nutrition, how you're trained, your mindset? Are you
Hmm.
giving yourself enough time to recover? Now we'll look at the 1%
Yeah.
because they
Absolutely.
need the
When you get the
99.
99 right.
Yeah. Then focus on the one. Then focus on the one where it's essentially, correct me wrong, what you're saying is identifying where you're at. Knowing like here's potentially something that's been holding you back. We have now done the really hard part, really challenging part of getting into the scenario and trying to look how can we turn that just to positive. You're not saying we're not going to fix it, make it thing. It's just turning a perspective on it that
Yep.
what can you take from it? Then go with a mindset to say you're given a gift.
Yep.
That sounds like a phenomenal. It's a lot of money put into your phones there now before you even build a house, but you need that. That's what a lot of people say. You spend so much money I spent into the phones. Well, if
Yeah.
you didn't, your house may not last.
Correct.
So it's
Correct.
very strong. It's a lot of synergy between what even I'm delivering to staff training. I would always use that analogy of a house
Yeah.
when it comes to physical development, where the very biggest thing is our perception motor skill development. So understand your vestibular system, tactile
Yep.
awareness, all of this all sounds all fancy. but it's literally through play.
Yeah.
Children need to develop us through tummy time, through your rhymes, rolling down a hill, the development of this, but that's your foundation. Then you build your FMS, your fundamental movement skills. So you're running, you're skipping, you're hopping, jumping. Then you put the roof of the house on, which is your sports specific skills. But if we're
Yep.
throwing our young kids into those scenarios where we're getting them into sports specific skills first, it reduces confidence. They don't have the competency to deliver the
Absolutely.
skill. So then it becomes, like you said, is the big thing I deliver on, a negative experience.
Hmm.
So, like our mission at Core Kids is to inspire millions to live a happy, healthy, more fulfilling life. And one way in which we do that is by delivering positive experiences of physical activity, so they can be
That's
active
amazing.
for the rest of their life. That's
That's
and that,
amazing,
that's
Gary.
pardon.
Absolutely. That's
That's
amazing.
that's what we built it on, and it's exactly what you said. It's about a positive experience, and I love the saying too. I always say that you'll never have a neutral experience.
No.
It'll either be positive or negative. And when you do have a negative, and we talk about that, you're talking about somebody having trauma and a huge trauma. For us, it's like when we're delivering our sessions, if a child, for example, is bouncing a ball, bangs up, hits them in the face, how quickly can you turn that to a positive experience?
Yeah. When I was training my sons to ride a bike, every time they fell off, I applauded them, I congratulated them. They looked at me like I had 14 heads, but they got back onto that bike thinking, "Oh, when I fall off, I get praised. This is weird."
Yeah.
So it's again, it's just that it's just a different way of thinking. And do you know when those kids fall down and they look at their parent to see the parent's reaction before they decide what reaction they should have? That's exactly what I was doing. So I was going, great job. Well done, son. Fall down. Let's get back up again. Let's get moving on again. They're like, what is this guy? This guy's weird. You know, but where you see other people running over going, oh, wee man, are you all right? And hugging and kissing and rubbing knees and blowing on plasters. And it's like, okay, all right, that's one way of doing things. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's not my way of doing things. That's fine. Let's do it a different way. And again, this is back to my perspective. There is right and wrong in the world. Don't get me wrong. There definitely is. But there's one way of doing something, and then there's another way of doing something. The perspective of you and me, your right is maybe not my right. Your wrong is maybe not my wrong. Situational, it's timing. There's so many factors, and that, do you know, we talked about the perfectionism. That is where you can remove perfectionism because your right and my right, your perfect and my perfect are two different things.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Perspective.
perspective is so important.
Yeah, it's huge. Um, that is brilliant because I will between the both of us, we could probably talk all day.
Easily,
Well,
easily, Gary,
easily. It
easily.
was there's a great connection there. I love that. But to finish off as well a little bit, I do have one wee question I ask is like, uh, if you had a magic wand, right, and you could change one thing, what would it be and why?
Ooh. We could change one thing, what would it be and why? To be honest, Gary, I don't think I would change anything
Nice. Okay.
because where I am, where my family is, we're here because of what has happened. Would I would I like for my late wife to be still alive? Absolutely. Would I like for my wife's late husband to be alive? Absolutely. Would we have met otherwise? Probably not. Would I be living the life that I'm currently living? Probably not. I don't think I would change anything because I think everything is happening for a reason. This to me has been set out some other time by some other people, and this is supposed to happen. That's easy for me to say, consider I'm still here. That's easy for me to say, but it is also very difficult for me to say that as well.
Yeah. Keep coming back to those two words, peace. and contentment.
Yeah.
It's very strong, very, not to say that you're little living in total yin and yang. There's ups and downs, but when it comes to the core of it, there seems to be a level of acceptance,
Mm,
peace, and contentment, which is very
absolutely.
strong. That's what I'm feeling from what you're saying and doing. So
I would agree. I would agree.
yeah, it's
Absolutely. You have to, Gary. You have to. There has to be acceptance. There wasn't always, but there you have to have acceptance because listen, to use the cliche, we're here for a short time, not a long time.
mm,
And you gotta live every day. And memento mori is something I live by.
yeah. No, I'm turning into Jake Humphreys now. I've got this tattoo on my arm. Yeah, no,
Uh,
and it is right. It is right. We are all dying. Is
we are.
was what we do in that period. So that was a beautiful answer. I thought that was a lovely answer, actually. Quick few wee quick fire ones now, so you can go at these, but what are your
Sure.
core values and why?
My core value is integrity. I think that that lacks in this world as we know it. And integrity to me is doing what you say and saying what you do and being honest even when it is painful. So I'm okay with saying no and hurting someone's feelings, but I'm not intentionally doing that. It's just I'm not going to make a promise that I can't keep. I would rather you be able to look at me and go, whatever Kevin says is the gospel according to him, and that's it. So that is my core value, and all of my other values or principles they come from that one. And I mean, even with my clients, I have had turned away quite a few clients when I thought you and I don't gel, we don't
Hmm.
bond. I'm not going to continue to take your money if you don't feel it and I don't feel it and we don't feel that this is going to go anywhere. But I'm also quite happy then to pass them to someone else who they may be better suited to. And I see that
Yeah,
as integrity, doing the right thing even when no one else is looking.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'd say, the success is the work that everybody doesn't see.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, brilliant. You already mentioned one already, but another one, we mentioned two or three actually throughout this, but a book you would recommend. So you mentioned Falling Forward, you mentioned Man's Search for Meaning as well. Is
Yeah.
there any, those would be your go-to?
Those are my go-to. Carl Dweck,
Grit.
Mindset. It's a good one. Um,
She was founder Grit as well too.
yes, yeah,
Grit, yeah, a
yeah.
strong one.
And another one is The Daily Stoic.
But yes, I have that there actually. There it is
I
there.
love that book. I
Yeah.
absolutely, it's just thought-provoking.
And
It's
would you
just
practice
really
that
thought
every day?
every single day,
Brilliant. Love it. It's
every
so
single day.
so simple, so ingenious, the fact that there's no year on it. You could just use that all year
I've
round.
I've got to the stage now, Gary, where I sort of just flick through the book,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah,
what comes up comes up. And I'm a great believer in things happen for a reason. So I flick through that page and I look at it and I read it and I understand it. And then it gives me a little bit of a thought for the day. And then I go about my business. And sometimes it creeps in to my thinking,
beautiful.
like we had mentioned earlier about, your thoughts create your behaviors. I want to put the right thoughts in here to create the right behaviors.
Yeah. That Miracles by the Marcus Aurelius
Mm,
meditation, sorry. Uh
meditations, yeah.
it was always, and again I would have done the same thing, would have went flick and something would have come up at the right time. So beautiful. Great, great, great share there. So feeling forward, Man's Search for Meaning and the Daily Stoic.
Yeah.
Recommendations from Kevin O'Reilly. And then, yeah, so, and it's finally, is there anybody else you would recommend to come on to the podcast or, to share their story, to share and give the gift
Yeah,
that they
absolutely.
have? Who would you recommend?
Absolutely. There's a girl called Amanda Barr. She is a divorce coach, a divorce and relationship coach. Her
Very good.
energy is just fantastic and through the roof.
Yeah, well, we shall reach out and see, or we make it a mutual introduction
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah,
yourself.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we can go from there. But so Kevin, where can people reach out? Because I know you've delivered a TED Talk.
I
You're a
have.
Talk host,
Yeah.
and you're a TED Talk. Someone else I seen in your bio as well. What was the three? Was there three?
Curator.
Narrator. Yes, there you
Curator.
go. That was the one I was
So,
missing. So.
so
But your TED Talk is happening in Bangor now on the 9th of October.
that's correct.
How do we find out more? Because I went to my first TED Talk there in Black Mountain and I'd met yourself as well there. But an uplifting, inspiring, networking,
Mm,
surround yourself with good people kind of
yeah,
moment. So where could people go and to see and buy tickets for yours?
absolutely. Thank you very much. The event is happening in Bangor. We have called it TEDx Bangor, and you can find all ticket details at tedxbangor.com. You'll find everything there that you need. And it's happening on the 9th of October in the space buildings that belong to Southeastern Regional College, or CERC, just down beside uh, one of the big parks, just down beside in the center of Bangor. It's so exciting. I can't wait to be able to create a platform for 15 speakers to come on and to change people's thoughts and to change people's feelings and to change people's futures, because that's what a good TED Talk does. It changes their thoughts, feelings, and futures. And I absolutely can't wait to be part of that. I'm bringing it. This is the first time at Bangor, Ards North Down has anything like this, bringing a global brand to this area.
Amazing. Credit to you for doing that, and I'll definitely be going along to that one as well.
Good man.
And if anybody is interested in reaching out, where is the best place to find you for being a communication expert? If they want to improve their communication, where could they go and find you?
Well, if they want to find me, they can find me at kevinoreilly.com or kevinoreilly.co.uk.
Brilliant. There you go.
And that will take them to the communications clinic. We do one or two free communication clinics a month, and if you want to have any further coaching, you can have one-on-one coaching with myself, or we also do online courses. And we have a book coming out within the next 3 or 4 months, which will bring everything together as well with regards to my experiences around communication.
Amazing. So check out Kevin there, follow him, keep up to date and all the amazing stuff that is happening because there'll be a lot of content shared. I can just feel it as well too coming up. So um but Kevin, absolute pleasure. I really appreciate your time for sharing your knowledge, giving the gift to improve other people because we don't know who's gonna listen to this and be like, you know what? I just needed to hear this right now.
Indeed.
So thank you for sharing. Is there anything else you would like to say to mention before we go?
No, Gary, I just want to thank you very much for inviting me on and giving me this opportunity. This is this is something I really enjoy doing, and meeting people like yourself, whether it be via podcast or in person like we have done already. I just like, again, surrounding myself with people who are like-minded, and just having a great chat, because you just never know where that communication can go. You never know where the next venture could happen. And I am a great believer in things happen for a reason. So you and I have met, and you and I are on this podcast, and there's a reason for that. It'll either
Mm,
to help either one of us, or it'll help other people.
brilliant. I love that. Great way to finish. So, Kevin, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.